Hello, folks. Thank you very much for joining into the Schusterian Careers podcast. Today, I am speaking with Aliya about her work as getting into software development. I actually got a chance to talk with her on LinkedIn, and as opposed to most folks, we either ask for an informational interview or just get some details or looking much. Aliya had actually a really deep message. Actually, you sounded like you really knew what you were looking for, so I kind of wanted to get you into a meeting and thought I'd chat with you for a little bit. So I'm looking to help you out and hopefully get you some good insight. But yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and what brought you to me.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. Basically, I talked to one of my colleagues, and he suggested that you would be the perfect person
Oh,
to guide me on the stage of life I am right now
okay.
in almost existential crisis.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that.
Well, yeah. Let's start with me giving you a little bit of background about me. I am a recent graduate with a master's degree in management information systems.
Hmm.
Prior to that, I have had a bachelor's in information technology, and I have around 2 years of work experience as a software engineer. When I was working as a software engineer, I realized that I am pretty much interested in getting to know the business side of how software works, and that encouraged me to take a master's degree in management information systems, and I have just graduated. Well, that makes me feel like I have shifted my focus from software engineering to business analytics, data science. And it feels like I don't know what I want to do. Do I still want to be a software engineer? Do I want to be an analyst? Am I a good software engineer or am I a good analyst? It
Oh.
feels like, or am I good at both? Or am I good at none? Or, I have to get a job. Like I am looking for an entry into the workforce, right? I have graduated. So, what is the right field? Should I practice coding in Java? Should I learn queries in SQL? Like I'm stuck in the middle of an existential crisis.
Oh yeah, I get that. I don't know
Mhm.
who referred you to me, but I'm a very, even more so than usual. I'm pretty well suited to talk about this. So
Okay.
anyway, I started off my career with a business degree, and I talk about that a lot, where I moved from business into technology. But one of the things that continued to happen to me over my career is I've always felt this tension between these two, and
Yeah.
I got some bad news, and then I got some good news, and then some great news. So the bad news is that that tension never resolved. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like, so I spent a lot of time getting more technical over my career, and the business side kept doing good things for me. I kept
Okay.
thinking of myself that while my technical was really getting up to speed, the business side really helped out. And when I talk about business side, I really mean project management, operations, business analysis, that sort of stuff, people
Right.
problems. And so
Yes.
that kept working. So I had both sides of this kind of going at the same time. And so finally, at one point when I started my job at IBM, I decided that's it. I'm going to be technical. That there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm going to be a DevOps engineer. That's a path I deliberately chosen. I'm going to learn that path. I'm going to do everything within it, and I'm going to learn that. And by golly, January 2019, I was at IBM as a DevOps engineer, and I just said, "Fine, I'm not worrying about the business side. I'm just going to be technical, and we'll figure out the business stuff later." Like, I don't know what to do about it, so I kind of forsook that side of it. I didn't think it was that valuable. Within 6 months, about a quarter of my job was business. Within a year, half my job is a business, and now 90% of my job is business. And I got back
Okay.
by choice and because it was really good. So
Right.
the bad news is it never quite resolved. And that's
Mm-hmm.
because it's a really, really valuable skill set that the market doesn't know how to ask for.
It is.
It,
Yeah.
it doesn't, they don't know how to do that because, like, I'm giving a speech tomorrow to a boot camp about reading job descriptions. And one of the things that people don't get about job descriptions is that it's truly a marketplace and that there's two sides. There's people selling and there's people buying. You go to the grocery store and you accept that. I'm going to, the cereal aisle and I got a whole bunch of cereal. Someone is putting a lot of thought into how does my product look? How am I going to attract people to it? How am I going to get people to accept this?
Yes.
And there's people buying, saying, what is the right choice for me? And the marketplace of jobs is exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
When I go out into the market, I'm trying to find preconceived ideas of, okay, I need to find this sort of engineer, or I have a problem. What does that map to? And
Right.
sometimes it maps decently well. Like, like sometimes, oh, I need an application developer. So there's lots of those. But sometimes it's a little bit odder where it's like, well, I don't really need a business analyst, but they're more like a business analyst than something else. And then when you go to the recruiter, they go and say, no, you got to ask for one of these jobs. You can't do that. So it's kind of like the cereal. I decided I want to sell the milk right next to my cereal, and it's like, that's not how this works. You have to do it this way. So what ends up happening is you get a lot of jobs that are either that don't quite fit, where there are people
Mm-hmm.
like us that people would love to have inside their organization, but they don't know how to ask for them. So you get this market mismatch. So
Yeah.
here's where it ended up being really hard for me. When I ended up leaving, the incubator that I was working at, and I decided I was going to get this DevOps job, I didn't know that's what I wanted to do at first. I just knew I wanted to be technical, and I thought I would be a solution architect, that I would do that. And so I applied as a solution architect, which was this mix of, oh, I got this business and technology, and it felt the most true to who I was, and it got no attention, none. Just it wasn't there because it didn't fit any of the roles. It didn't fit anything. Nobody really knew what to do with me, and so I had to take pains to really zero in on what really my background was, go into and apply, and really go in and get into a position. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the bad side for people who have strong dual positions. Getting into jobs without networking is tougher because you have to deliberately remove part of your role, and you have to find people who get it. And that's
Yes.
the thing. I'm very lucky because I got into the role where somebody really, I mean, when I most people didn't care about my business background and did that,
Yeah.
except that the manager who eventually hired me on the first call said, "You got a good business background. That dual, you know, reality you're living is
Yeah.
ended up being really valuable." And he's the guy who ended up opening up new opportunities for me and actually paved the road for me to become an engineering manager and allowed me to
Oh,
become an engineering manager in record pace, basically, as best I
great.
can. So I guess that's the first piece of targeted advice in there, which
Yes.
is you kind of have to hide a lot of those details. You need to fit yourself to the market, basically, is what I would do. But just to get into the door, that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's the two phases of the job hunt, which is from the creation of the resume to the first interview, and then the first interview and afterwards. All of those great qualities that you're talking about are going to shine brightly once you get through the door. But if you can't get through the door, and that's not defined by the hiring manager. That's often recruiters. That is the automated systems out there. It's somebody seeing your post on LinkedIn and thinking that, oh, you should apply to a job. It's really impersonal. And so people are not really trying to don't have the ability to get a nuanced view of individuals. They're looking for that role. So for you, it's pretty much what is the role that is closest to what you really want to be in, but is the thing that matches the best. So really, I recommend multiple resumes, basically, where I said, okay,
Right.
here is a Java developer, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do BA and whatever, and that's not taking into consideration the strategy of like what do you really want to do, which roles match up to you. That's an important discussion, but at some point you have to match, here's the box that I'm going to say I fit into, and I'm going to hit it as best I can and move into that. That's kind of the best thing. But then once you actually get into the interview process, that's when these other features can come out. That's when these other things there. Because when you're at that point, once you can show you can do the role and do it, and it truly is are they technical enough? Question one. Two, are they somebody that fits well into my team? Question one could literally be a test. You could just administer tests to people and figure out if they're technical enough or not. But the reason we interview you, the reason I pull you in front of me and say, tell me about your background is I want to see how you think. I want to see how you act. I'm trying to think of you in terms of how are you going to match on my team with everyone else's here? Do you have the culture? Do you have the background? And so all of a sudden that dual background where you're sitting there, all of a sudden it stops looking like a problem and starts looking like potential. It starts
Right.
looking like I might actually be able to do something really interesting to you. I mean, that's one of my most recent hires. Michael basically came out of boot camp. He was a product owner, And I hired him as a DevOps engineer, not even a junior DevOps engineer, a mid-level DevOps engineer is the official title of what he got. And the reason he got that is because one, he could do the technical work, but two, he had such a diverse background and he was in the right place. He's going into a squad that has lots of individuals like him that have unique backgrounds, where I said, if I just drop him here and give him the growth and the opportunity, he's going to do something amazing. I just have to build him up and build that. That's kind of what you're looking for, which is a lot like asking for, again, the perfect opportunity, but that's the sort of team you're trying to look for and deal with. So I guess that's the second thing. You're trying to look for a position where it's not really narrow. You're looking for a place where you can move around, because almost certainly as soon as you get into your first role, whatever it is, you're going to start moving, and you
Yeah,
need to be in a place where that appreciates that.
true.
At least that's what I have there. So let me pause. Useful, not useful, anything else that you want to, anything more specific you want to get into?
Sure. Well, this was very useful, and let's actually pick up from the point you mentioned, that the first step is a resume to the first interview, and
Mm-hmm.
then everything's after the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So let me put it this way: how do you get to the first step? Because for me personally, I feel like I have the diverse background that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I have the business acumen, I have the sound technical abilities, but it's so difficult to get recognized. When you ask around or when you research, like, what's the best way to find a job? Oh, just apply to LinkedIn. Oh, you can just connect. Oh, just network around. Yeah, that's it. I think you should, do like 500 applications a day. Oh, maybe, that guy out there, he did 1,000 applications a day and he got 2 interviews. Well, I think I have been working around these things for a while now, and none of this has been fruitful until I have fallen and got up and learned by myself that there is a lot more to this. And the first very important thing that I've understood or gained from this is, networking is not just one of the things you have to do. I think it's the first most important thing to
Mm-hmm.
get into. um, to be able to be recognized at all. Because if you don't have the right networks, if you don't have the right people who can get you to the right people to recognize the value you can bring to the table, or you know just you talked about the resume and how the ATS systems work, and
Mm-hmm.
all of those intricate things. Like, if you do not have a lot of detailed knowledge about what you just spoke about, it's so difficult to get to the first step, to get to that first interview, to even get your resume acknowledged, even though you have so much knowledge. So it's not about how much you know about academically, or how much knowledge you have, or it's none of that. It's about who you know, it's about how you do it, it's about how you actually leverage those skills to be recognized. And I think I've been facing a lot of or maybe learning a lot in that realm of how to be recognized. And I think most of the students who are far more valuable than they think, because once you keep getting rejections from these companies, you feel like you're not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Where on the other end, you are worthier than anything. You have all of these multifaceted technology skills, and you're just not able to be recognized in this huge market. And that is a huge gap that most of the students, I think, including me, have faced.
Yeah. Let me take that piece by piece and kind
Yeah.
of to go through. So there's definitely number one, like, again, networking long term is by far the best way that I've kind of stayed employed and really have a good pulse on, because networking doesn't just get you like roles and opportunities. It's safety net.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that does that. And like, because when I was, I mean, the reason I had to apply to jobs and go through that, where I applied to, I don't know, hundreds of jobs, at one point, to get what I needed, it's like, it's because I didn't have a network. I was applying to a crowded space. And of course, I didn't really know what I was doing when I first started. Now I iterated and it ended up becoming, I getting there. I'll get to that in a second. But when I was in Indianapolis, it's kind of like I had 2 or 3 open job offers at any given point. I had friends who had started companies who were interested in starting companies with me, or at least doing something together. So there was that safety net there. That is a really nice place to be, but it takes a long time to mature. I mean, like for me, like any one connection, just time wise, takes about a year to really mature. It truly is a time thing. Like I can meet with somebody multiple times in a year, or meet with them just once, and if I see them later, regardless of how many times I met with them, there's that barrier that exists, and then you're just kind of let in, where it's like the mental Rolodex opens up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you do that. And that's also the place for people like us who have this range, right? That they're non-traditional. They know where to fit you because, again, they don't have to worry about trying to fit you to a job description. You've gotten their trust. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing, there. So that's a really, really good place to be. And that's something as you start to demonstrate your skills. And again, you can do this by, again, I've become a big fan of digital marketing, showcasing your skills on, places like LinkedIn, doing talks and speeches. That's just so powerful to get you a name out there. And it's something that we can talk about. But let me address the second part you mentioned about it being able to apply to jobs. I again, not knowing the specifics of your background, just knowing what you said there and knowing what I experienced, it's going to be really hard to fit your job yourself to a role because there is that necessity to know and saying there where it's like it's like almost like a core conviction where these things are valuable. I know these things are valuable. If I cut this off, I'm going to be missing a huge part of what I'm doing. And also there's this tendency to think of, well, can't I do both? That's what it took
Always. Can
that's
I do all of it?
right. And it's like I want to be able to do both, but that's the truth is that being able to, like, right now, I mean, the way my team is organized is done in such a way that almost everyone wears multiple hats and doing stuff. I mean, right now, Isra, she started off as our IM basically for RTP, but ended up growing to be the IM for our leadership squad, ended up going and moving to a different group. Now she's the very first product owner our team has had, and we've never had that role before. But the truth is, like, I trust her and I move into that, and she had the ability to kind of stretch out to that position. But again, if she went to a different position, she's also going to have a hell of a time being able to explain, what she did. So for her, it's almost like it's part of being a good mentor to her. I'll probably take her through that process and then say, let's find that vertical we can take you in so that you can avoid this problem that you're now experiencing and I'm experiencing to do that. And honestly, it's not obvious what your role should be. It's not obvious. Because when I was applying, solution architect was literally my last job I had. I was a technical solution architect. I was working for a company in New York building serverless architecture, basically. I was building analytics dashboards for A&E Media's executive team. And it was a good role, and it was a good title. And I applied with that, and it was just crickets. I mean, no one knew what to do with me. And so what ended up happening was I had to take a more experimental approach to what I was doing. I had to be, whereas like, okay, I don't know what's wrong, but I'm going to have to do that. So what I ended up doing is I took my resume and wrote multiple different versions for classifications of roles. And a friend of mine taught me this technique where it was, I put the title in of whatever it was. And it was like, full stack, back end developer, data analytics professional, whatever it be, write that role, write those skills in particular to showcase it and start applying. Most of them were duds. Some of them did better than others. Like the analytics one did a little okay, ETL developer. But then I think I don't even know where this came up because this isn't a role that I'm about to say. I just said I was a Python developer. I wrote Python developer, wrote a summary about Python development, and it was just one of the roles. I mean, I don't know, maybe it was like my 5th or 6th resume that I wrote. And then I applied with that one, and the floodgates opened. I don't know what it was about that one. I don't know what combination of things I did that, but it was almost like there was this unlocking that took place that I said, okay, as soon as I did that thing, all of a sudden everything opened up. And that's when I got the really good jobs. I got the really good recruitments, and that happened. So perhaps one of the things that might help is to take more of a iterative experimental approach with the application process. And that's the thing. When I think some people think of the process of applying to 300 jobs as I'm going to apply to 300, here's my resume and go job, 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 job. When the truth is it's more like apply to 10 to 15 to 20, get feedback. And there's sometimes you do get feedback. And even though the feedback is nothing, it's like, okay, let's just do something completely different. Let's do a completely different category and then apply to another 20. Learn. Run experiments where you do 3 at a time. I've done that before too. 10, 10, 10. See what happens and kind of apply that. If you do that iteratively, then all of a sudden the rejections stop feeling truly like rejections and more feels like experimentation. Feels like you're going out and doing that. So I found that to be helpful. And for particularly with folks like our background, you may do that because it sounds like you're okay going non-technical if that led to a
Mhm.
position. Would that be correct?
Yep.
So there might be another angle there. So in the specifics there, program manager might be a very interesting background for you because you have
Hmm.
program management and technical background. That might be useful. Product owner potentially. I don't know if that's a role there, but it's worth considering to see what that might be in that direction. Maybe a data analyst or something in that might be a direction. But then you have all the traditional technical roles that you can apply to, where you have the development and other side to go through that. Perhaps that might do that, to make that happen. Um, so let me ask, when you have done networking or talking about
Hmm.
your role, what have you actually what have you actually produced? What's kind of your output looked like?
Well, I'd say I did not really produce an answer to my initial question. Like you said, there's never the right answer. But I have understood that, there are certain things that it's not about how fast you run, it's about how you're running in the right direction.
That's
So
fair.
even if
Yeah.
you're running as fast as you can but you're in the wrong direction, it's just waste of time. Even if you're applying to like 1,000 jobs and you're not curating your resume to the keywords in their job description, it's not gonna pass the ATS. So it just doesn't matter how many jobs you apply to. So it's and I did feel like when I actually got into networking, started talking to people, started reaching out to recruiters, it's actually not bad as I thought. Recruiters do respond. Recruiters do want to hire you because that's actually what they're working for. So like yesterday I had a call with this recruiter who was like so nice to me. She wanted to know more about my background, and she was like, please send me all of the roles that you want to apply to, and we'll work on it.
Hmm.
So I mean, I have been applying for like a couple thousand of applications in the past year, in past months, and nothing happened. And a few weeks of networking has actually made a whole lot of difference. A few weeks,
Hmm.
just a few weeks of networking. So me having all of these skill sets and having applied to innumerable applications didn't do what actually talking to people did.
Wow. That's actually great. That's great that you got such quick feedback, or at least you got that much direction, which I think is validating that like you,
Mhm.
you got very strong communication skills. I mean, very, very strong for the fact that you're also somebody with a technical background, which is not common.
Right.
you know,
True that.
right. So so there's something else I want to ask. So
Sure.
so when you say you're applying to a role and you're looking for jobs, is it that let me what is your end goal ultimately? Is it really just you're looking for an income? Is it that you want to work for a big company? Do you have any entrepreneurial aspirations? Do you have what are you thinking of?
I think the former. I want to work for a big company.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I
fair.
am more towards that.
That's fair then.
Mhm.
So I guess in that case, if you want to do that, because there's another interesting alternative with like working as a contractor, working freelance, and doing your own thing. But if that's not your ambition, that's totally fine. In that case, when you think of kind of major organizations like that and those groups, yeah, the networking route is an interesting one because again, the machine is very dumb in big organizations. There's not a lot of intelligence. I've often had to go beyond my recruitment network to actually go and find hiring. Not that it's bad, but like they'll bring in people, but like they're serving many different resources. One recruiter, they're not thinking about like me in particular, and they're not thinking about you in particular.
Yeah.
Famously, one of the guys I ended up hiring, I had to save from the recruitment bin. They actually threw out his resume, and I noticed that he didn't get there. So I had to ask him, please, can I see this resume and actually
Yeah.
pull it in? So if you want to go about that route, if you wanted to do that, where are you located out of?
Pennsylvania.
You're located out of Pennsylvania. Okay. There's several big so I would say find the big organization. I'm not sure if you're already doing this, but I guess there's a couple ways that you can go out and get networked with people and folks there, especially if you're finding network to be useful and you get a lot of energy out of that. There's a ton you can
Yeah.
do. One of it is that it's actually useful to find where these guys are already hosting events, and what
Hmm.
they're doing. Because really the people you want to ultimately be talking to are, well, kind of like people like me. Talking to
Yes.
recruiters is not a bad strategy. They can help do that, but they feed. Like they're feeders to the rest of the system. Like a recruiter could tell you, man, you look like the greatest candidate. And then they bring it to me and I'm thinking, they don't have JavaScript, can't talk. Versus if you talk to me, like, I mean, honestly, like when I've received emails from folks, very much like you sent me and you sent a message, and I get that and you're saying, hey, I see a role here. Like if you can match a job to an individual and talk to them, that's a really big help. That's a really
Yes.
big help to be able to do. Question, have you heavily used informational interviews in your process?
Yes, I have. And I've done quite a few of them. And again, I'd say I feel like I've learned these things with a lot of trial and error. And it took me a while, but they ended up being great. Well, the informational interviews actually give you a sneak peek into how the company culture is, like the way you wake up in the morning, and how do you feel about your work, how do you feel about going to that place, that big organization you have always dreamed of. Like for example, just in the past week I had an informational interview with a product manager of a dream company. And well, I got quite a lot of unexpected feedback, like I
Interesting.
didn't know. Yeah, so I think it's very, like you just said, recruiters don't really know what a candidate can bring to the table. They might think it's great, it's a great candidate, but might be missing JavaScript, right?
Right.
It can be the other way around. You can dream of this particular company, but you can miss those little pieces which are not listed on the job description, not listed on the website, not listed on the about me section, but you can actually find out through those informational interviews. I didn't even know that informational interviews exist until a couple weeks ago, and I'm so sad about that. I mean,
It's
like
really valuable.
why is it not out there for us kids, like fresh grads? Why do we not already know these things? These should be literally out there and helping us grow. And I don't think we should be struggling to find these out with trial and error, especially when you're out there, you're a fresh grad, you're full of energy to get into the job market. And well, it's a good thing you're learning, but I'm glad that I learned these pieces. And like you said, the informational videos, they are very, very helpful, very helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I found that's almost like one of the lowest cost ways to actually get access to the right people in the organization, what you're doing there. And I mean, it helps now because now I'm thinking about, okay, if I needed to contact you with somebody, who would I be connecting you with? Because the sad thing is that, or I guess not the sad thing, but like for me, when I go through it, it's like my network is big, but it's only, to me, there's only so many people I could connect you with internally before my network personally is tapped out. But if
True.
you're networking personally, I'll give you two names, which can get you two names, which can get you two names, which is
Right.
basically you can daisy chain your way through an
Yes.
organization and a network. And you're also kind of finding the useful people. I'm not going to send you to somebody who I don't trust or I don't
True.
like, or to be able to go through that. So I think that's definitely a good way to go, to go about it and get introduced, um, to do that. So yeah, I mean, informational interviews have been probably one of the best ways. Finding the actual name of the hiring manager is really useful. Particularly else because also like something else that people do is like managers will, at least, on LinkedIn, managers will post, oh, we're hiring and we're going that, and you'll get a job description. And that's one of the surest ways, because that's the thing. You can't look at a job description and find the hiring manager from that. That's usually hidden. But you can go on LinkedIn and search for that rec, for example, or for that job description or whatever. And then all of a sudden, the hiring manager. And it's honestly really easy to say, hey, I have an interesting background, but I'm not sure if I'm the right fit for your role. Would it be okay to have a 15-minute discussion to talk about it and go through there? And that's honestly, I've never seen anyone say no to that. I've never seen anyone say no to that proposition, because it's super, super easy. I don't feel under pressure to give you the role. You don't feel, and you get a chance to talk with me, and I can just be open about the role, open about the position. So no, it's very insightful. So you found networking to be the best. So
Yes,
so barring
yes.
this discussion or anything, what would be your next steps here for what you're looking to do?
Um, well, here's where I'll let you step in and I'll throw this question to you. So, okay, let me give you a little background about the situation now. So, as international students getting here into the States, there are US immigration laws that once you graduate, you have a grace period for like 90 days
Mm-hmm.
to find yourself a job or you go back home.
Mm.
And well, I have been almost past those unemployment days, and I have, let's say, 3.5 weeks
3.5
left.
weeks.
Yes. And that's why I kept repeating, like, I learned the important things pretty late.
Ah,
So right now, you get it. You get the connection. So right now, I have 3.5 weeks. What do you suggest? What should I do?
all right. So unfortunately, this is not my area of expertise, but probably in a year from now, I will be very experienced in this area. But right now, I wouldn't do that. But honestly, I would say you're looking for places that hire. You're an I-9 then, is what you're saying. Is that the terminology?
I'm an F1,
F1,
F1 student.
F1, F1 student. You're an F1
That's
and
right.
you're looking for opportunities. So that's the thing. And that's a lot of the challenge where, like, for example, I cannot do, despite what I want to do, I cannot hire F1s in my position and what I do there. They're very hard to come by in our position. So I'm now understanding the complexity there. So I would say, when you have done research on the F1s in that market, what have you seen, like, places that hire F1s and do that? Have you seen, or like job boards that cater to F1 students? Have you found anything like that?
All of the companies, all of the big companies, all of the medium level companies, all of the dream companies do hire those F1s. Like the jobs are out there, but it's just difficult to close that gap, maybe.
Hmm.
And I am just wondering, how do I work in it in limited time? That's the
Volume
question.
would be the first thing that I would really look at, because that's the thing. I mean, really, at this point, you need as many shots in the barrel as you can get, because those are very hard positions to come by. So those are ones that are challenging to be able to go through. So really, I would say, so okay, so really that's not the key challenge. Just getting a role is really important, because based on you, if you want to work for a big organization, you want to have the ability to, find a role within it. You can find the role second, is what I'm saying. You can work
Yes,
a role that doesn't quite fit, but it's good enough, and do that.
yes,
Honestly,
that's it.
yeah. So okay, so we got a challenging position here. So if I had to strategize this without knowing too much about it, here's what I would do. I would first off have just every single role, whatever, because I kind of had this iterative process. You don't have time for that. So you would have to say every single role you could possibly apply for, everything. Project manager, business analyst, even if you think you're horribly underqualified, get a resume out and get it today to do that. The way I structured my resumes are, I have my name and information at the top. I have I put the title I'm applying to. I have a short summary just on that segment, just on that section, on that explains why I'm qualified uniquely for that particular position. And then underneath that, I reorder the skills. So I'll have my skills section next. And what's really nice about that is that I can reorder my skills based on what I'm applying to. So for an SRE position, I can show my Kubernetes experience first, which is the most important. If I'm hiring a data analytics, I can show my SQL experience. I can show, if it's a project manager, project analysis, that sort of thing. So I would look for positions like that, and I would look for everything. Based on what I know, from my industry, project management, iteration manage, scrum masters, kind of fall into that category. Those sort of things kind of fall in, but really, going out there, massively. The next thing I would do is I would start to scroll and say, because here's the thing, like they say, all the big companies do, but like, again, my particular unit doesn't have the ability to do that. We ration them basically based on the needs and the difficulty of the position. So
True.
that's the other part too that needs to happen here, which is you need to find the rarest and hardest jobs basically and kind of prioritize that, because your ability to be able to get that sort of sponsorship is going to be based on how hard that role is to get. So if there's so that's the thing. Even though you're going to try for business analyst and those other roles, you should really put the unique technical ones at the top. And I say technical, but it could be just unique roles where you have experience, and put those at the top. Then I would say it's really hunting inside of the organization. And I mean, really, it's going through. If you find a position, they're going to tell you who the business is. They're going to tell you the business unit, whatever. You got to find names and you got to go and do that. And honestly, I would say you be ruthless. Be ruthless about the position. Go out, go hunt them down and say, hey, I saw this position. I'm interested in hiring. Would you be interested in a 15-minute informational interview? Would you be interested in talking and doing that? And if you're qualified and they have the ability to do to hire you, that might get you in front of the line. And also, like, again, if people find someone they really like and they know they'll help them with the line, basically jump them in front of the line, get them moving, and they'll have them move in that they can move fast if they need to. So that's what I would say. And then really, I would just say it's just at this point, it's list building. That would be the biggest thing that you're really doing. Find the names of the people you're looking for that are associated with the roles, because that's the part that I don't know. I don't know where to find the the F1 positions, that, or roles that hire for that. Because I know for me, that is just something I cannot hire for in my group, even though I'm sure IBM says in total. And for me, I've always thought in my head, that's like for like the quantum computer experts. Those are the guys who it's like, we literally can, the number of quantum computing experts in the world, we could fit into a large ballroom. So it's kind of like you need to do whatever you can there. So like for more general positions, it's a little bit more difficult. But that's what I would say. And also, I would also say, don't exclude small companies from that search. Even though I know your goal is to do big companies there, you can often get, because again, big companies, you could get lost in the maze, right? Because you go in there and say, oh, I don't know if we hire this. But with small companies, it's a very clear yes or no, that we either
Yeah.
do this or we don't do this. We either hire consultants or we don't. We can do that. That's another area you might want to consider too. If you're looking for a big company, look at consulting, because I know there are guys who can often pay more. And I don't know what their F1 status is, but like I know that's one where if you need to get a position, that's often a good place to be able to do it. That's what I would say. So really tonight, I would just start with just get every single role on the table, do everything you could possibly do, and have a basic resume for each one. Don't stop until you hit rock bottom, basically, because that's what you need.
Yeah.
Then it
Yeah.
would be go find the roles. And again, if you need inspiration for what those titles should be, I always use the LinkedIn job search to do that. To basically go in and say, here's the role, or here's the skills that I'm looking for. What are the different roles? So you may want to reverse engineer it. Here's the skills that I've done, or here's something I've done. Go into LinkedIn, type that in, see what roles start popping out, and you just start hunting and going through and doing
Mhm.
that. But I would say at some point then you keep applying to jobs and you keep finding the people who are there and keep networking, and just hope you hit down at some point. Because at that point, once you get to the volume, that's when you start moving closer. I would also say if you have any influential people that you know or whatever who can kind of promote your blog or your post, your content about what you're doing, now's the time to get in contact with them, to kind of research that and say, we have somebody who's a unique fit that's coming out of school. They have a great background, but they're looking for a position with, for F1 status, whatever it might be. that's what I would recommend. It's really a volume game at this point to do that and make that happen. So yeah, I'll think about my network and the people I would connect you with to be able to do that. But that would I think would be that would give you at least a start. Somebody who's more knowledgeable might have something more specific for you to be able to go through, but that's at least a volume play where you could work that until the final hour and still have a chance.
Right. Sounds good. Thank you. That would be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll do my best to try to help. Anything
Thank
else I can
you.
do for you, or any way else I can help?
Let's see. Well, I'd like to congratulate you for your newborn baby. I
Yeah,
read
yeah.
one
Look,
of your posts.
yeah. Oakley is coming in. Yeah, it's oh yeah, February basically, and this is my kid number 4. So lots of fun.
I wonder how you manage all of these things. It's so difficult. You work, you write your blogs, you do this, and kids and family. Wow.
I mean, it's honestly it's fun. I mean, that's the part that made it easy. I mean, because for years I thought I needed to start a tech company. You know, that's what I thought I would do. And even though like this is in technology, it's a different. It's related to technology, but it's doing something slightly different. But
Yeah.
honestly, it's easy. It's a lot of fun. I love doing this. It energizes me. And I love having family. I have a great spouse who keeps me balanced. And yeah, it's just I'm just having a lot of fun. I mean, there's nothing like it took me a long time to get to this point to be able to
Right.
manage my time and move in this direction. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. That's why I'm able to do it.
Great, great. I think time management is the key here. It's so important to be able to, if you're not able to manage your time, you can't even complete a single task. But if
Right.
you, yeah,
I mean, prioritization, habits, having time there. And that's the thing. I went through that post where it's like I go from the very top all the way to the
yeah,
bottom of specifically what it is. And there's a lot of little things too. Like I could just go through the little routines to keep my day balanced and things like that to make that happen. But also, I mean, that's the other part. There's a lot of incentive to keep in the direction that I'm going to, you know?
yeah,
Because that's the thing, because there's a lot of me in the past where I just forced the direction. You know, I wanted to force
right.
a particular outcome, and it never worked, in that direction. So yeah,
Do you
I'm
have like a to-do list every morning? Do you journal? How do you manage your time?
so it's not. I have a list that I use, and I use a time box. Basically, it's or they
Right.
some call it a Franklin journal, but
Mm-hmm.
basically I start the week off by going through the 6 roles, and 6 was the right number. I've done 7, and 7 didn't work very well. And anything less than 6, and I have to, I don't have quite enough. But I go through the roles and I figure out what I need to do, and that's the big one. So, when I say roles, it's more encompassing than just a to-do list. It's what do I need to keep balanced. So very often in the list I'll have travel, where it's like I love traveling, I love doing that, and I need to be deliberate about it, even if it's just going to like a museum locally or a hiking trail or something. So that's something that I add in there, knowing that I need to focus on my mental health this week, that I need there's a certain belief system I do, or my diet hasn't been quite what I wanted it to be. Those are things I do there, in addition to the things like you would think, the IBMs, work, that stuff there. So it kind of starts with that. And then every day is really just what is really needed, like, I'll take into consideration what I did the previous day. And I'll do that the night before. Well, I'll quickly journal out and think, okay, this is what I accomplished today. These are the big things. So tomorrow, okay, I have the presentation. I got to meet with my team. It's Friday, so I got to do my review of the week here. But then also, I haven't done this activity yet. I need to prepare for this set of activities on Saturday. And you end up getting a list that is truly like, okay, here's all the crap that's in my head. And then 1 or 2 of them are the jump ahead winners, where it's like that's the big thing I got to do. Like this morning I had about 6 things I needed to do, but for me it's like, okay, I got my style guide for my website. I need to complete the website today. That's just the next step along the way. And it's not that the other part's not important, but that's the thing there. So it's not really a to-do list per se. I have that, do that, but often my to-do list will roll from day to day if they're not that important, but it's really the top 2 that are really there and making that
Right.
happen. But I mean, that's the thing. That's part of it. Really keeping a routine in the morning has been like the big
Mm-hmm.
one, like just getting up first thing in the morning and working out has been like the killer thing that has kept me going. Like if I didn't
Very
have that,
good.
I think I would have slept in
Yeah.
more. I would have got that. But it's get up, do the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
work out, and then that takes me about 40 minutes or so to do all that. And then I'm upstairs, I'm sitting in that chair back there, and I'm like, okay, what's next? Review my list, go on LinkedIn, do, blog posts, whatever. I'm probably going to add writing to my morning routines, like writing articles. Because again, it's fun. That's the thing. It's like, wow, how do you post so much? It's like, I finally found that balance of, yeah, it's good work, but I love producing content. I love doing this. I love sitting here. So like, honestly, for me, the difficult part is the structure. It's like, not this that's challenging. It's going to be the video, me watching myself video edit this, afterwards to get this down on paper, to make this happen. That's the challenge. So, yeah, that's,
Got it.
that's how I go through. So yeah, I mean, your results may vary. You may have other routines, and I've experimented with a lot over time. I mean, that's where, like I said, I know you have a rush right now, so that's why that's why I appreciate it. But really giving yourself a lot of time to experiment on an area is really important to you, really
Mm-hmm.
gets you like a very very deep understanding of what you need to do. Because
Right.
I probably spent a year thinking about my mission before I finally found what it is, and that
Yeah.
led to everything else being better.
True, true. That was really insightful.
I,
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you so
glad.
much. Thank you for your time.
I'm so
Thank you
happy.
for all your help, all your advice. I really enjoyed the session. Thank
I'm
you so much, Brian.
I'm glad. Yeah, let me think of, if you could do me a favor. I'm not sure if you sent me your resume. Send me your resume and a couple of roles that you're considering, and I'll do some digging on my side.
Great. That'll be great. Thank you so much. I'll
Uh,
I'll send it to you on LinkedIn.
all right, awesome. So thank you so
Great.
much for your time.